This was about 6 months ago in the summer, southern hemisphere here. I tend to order a fair bit of pizza since hunger is a thing, and pizza is pretty much my only option for delivery since I don't drive. Now, I'm the kind of girl who doesn't wear pants if I don't have to. Oh, the weather's about 25 degrees, no pants for me. I have one pair of shorts that I love to wear, but only around the house, so obviously I put those on as I'm expecting a pizza delivery and can't exactly open the door pantless. I open the door, accept the pizza, and begin eating my dinner by the television. Not too long into my meal, I get a message on my phone. I've deleted the messages, of course, but in the first message, the sender calls me by name, which is strange as I prefer my nickname, and asks if I'm home alone often with a winky face. Okay, way creepy. Who is this person? Between me asking who on earth they are and how they got my number, probably a mistake on my part, they begin to describe exactly what I was wearing, and I get a horrible sinking feeling. This person has my number, my name, and how I'm dressed. I realize that the only way they could know this is if they were the guy who delivered my pizza, as I had to use my name and number to order. And if that's the case, this person knows where I live too. I put the number into Google and check the first few results. They're a local, and I've actually seen this person around on one of the buy, swap, sell pages on Facebook. Realizing they were in my town was the worst part, and they were literally in a good position to stalk, harass, or continue to be creepy as hell. I ended up drawing all the blinds, crawling into bed, and pretty much making myself into a blanket burrito, staying as still as I could for a few hours. I was genuinely scared out of my wits. Thankfully, I've yet to hear from this person again after threatening police action. Back around when I was 10, it was not uncommon for me and my siblings to dig around outside. On this particular day, I was tired out from the day before and decided to stay inside. I would occasionally go look outside to make sure everyone was okay and doing well. I was a paranoid small child due to some former trauma I had experienced as a smaller child. Well, after about my third glance outside, my cousin and brother were standing and talking to some pizza man. I turned to my mother and asked if we had ordered pizza, maybe as a surprise. My mom turned to the door and bolted outside yelling. The sounds of tires screeching could be heard. My mom came back inside with my brother, cousin, and sister. After asking what had happened, my brother and cousin went on to explain that the pizza boy they explained to be around his late 20s had asked the boys if they wanted some free pizza. Of course, being small kids, they were readily willing to accept such an offer. He told them the pizzas were in the back, and if they wanted them, they would have to get in. That is luckily when my mom ran towards the car yelling random obscenities. And thankfully, whoever he was sped off. Two weeks ago, I was home alone and the doorbell rang. I asked who it was, and the guy said, "Oh, it's pizza delivery." I didn't order a pizza, and when I looked, he was indeed carrying a pizza box. I told him I didn't order any pizza, and he left, looked out my window, and I see him cross the street to my neighbor's house. Didn't think anything of it since I thought maybe they were the ones who ordered the pizza, so I went back to doing what I was doing, which was playing video games. Turns out, the guy robbed my neighbors because they weren't home. Pretty scary stuff. I probably could have stopped it if I called the police, and to think of it, he was carrying a Little Caesars box, which is pickup only. So a few weeks ago, I got a new job as a pizza delivery guy. Pretty cool, $8 an hour. So I'm told to go deliver a pizza to some apartment complex, nothing out of the ordinary. Upon knocking on the door, a pretty cute girl opens up and smiles. Suddenly, this delivery is turning out pretty sweet. I tell her the price and she says, yeah, I got the money in my room, and asks me to come in to wait. Now, in any other circumstance, I'd say no, because that's the safe and smart thing to do. But hell, this girl was cute. Plus, what could she do that would hurt me? Well, she returns from her room with the money, smiling at me, and then she drops the change and slowly bends down to pick it up. She's flaunting her rack in a tank top, and when she comes back up, she's smiling. She gives me the cash, and this is how the conversation went after. "You're cute." "Thanks, you too," I say. "Can I have your number?" "I barely know you." "Why don't you hang for a bit and we could talk?" Alright, but only for like 10 minutes. Well, she led me back to her room, and we were going to share the pizza, but as soon as we get back there, she has all this BDSM stuff, handcuffs, choker chains, whips, etc., lying around. I kind of froze as soon as I took it all in, and then I said something like, "Oh, never mind, gotta go," and got out of there. I guess the lesson I learned is that even if someone looks like they're harmless and not creepy, there's still the small chance that they are. Never trust a stranger, no matter how good they may appear. So I'm a pizza delivery girl. Easy enough. I was at work around 9:30 p.m. when this guy calls. Very whispery, breathing voice. I do my usual, "Thank you for calling Pizza Hut. This is Karen. How are you doing tonight?" After the usual exchange, I find out he is ordering for delivery. He is a new customer, so I had to put in all of his information. Nothing weird. He tells me he has a coupon for a pizza and asks if I can give him the discount. I told him, "Let me grab my manager and we'll take care of that for you." He asked for me specifically to take care of him. After I came back from dealing with my boss, I told him that we discounted him for his coupon. He thanked me. Here's where it gets weird. He stopped me mid-sentence and told me that I have a very nice sounding tone of voice and that he loved hearing me talk and you should be a disc jockey. I was a little weirded out, but I tried to stay professional. I told him that it was very sweet and I would consider it. He said, "I'd listen to your radio station. Thank you for taking my order tonight. I'll stop by your store and see you sometime soon, Karen." I wish I would say it was over, but that isn't true. Note that this man lives in an apartment complex. What I didn't realize is I had taken the complex's address, but not his apartment number. Not 5 minutes later, the man calls back, and my coworker Belay answers the phone. I had learned after the fact that he had asked for me by name. I picked up the phone and did my greeting, and he reminded me I forgot to ask for his apartment number. Nothing weird yet. Again, I thanked him and changed the information. Before I could hang up, this was our conversation. Karen: "Yes, sir. How can I help you?" "Are you doing all right?" "Yes, sir. I'm great." "Good. I'm going to hang up now. See you soon." Belay heard the whole story and told my boss to have my male coworker take it. This is what Bob came back with. "First thing he said to me is asking where you were." Okay, so I got there, right? And I knock on the door. He asked in this weird, seductive voice, "Come in." But I was not about to go in this guy's house, so I knock again. He opened the door with a big smile on his face, but saw it was me, and it just dropped. And he said, "Oh, where's Karen?" I told him you were here, at the store, and he just looked upset. After I took his money and gave him his food, he asked how you were. I told him you were doing all right, and he just said, "Good. Karen is a sweet girl. Tell her I'll see her soon." The fact that he had asked the driver to come in and that he was expecting me creeps me out. Maybe he's just lonely and wants someone to talk to. But still, add one more creep to my list.
This is a true story. My name is George, and I was about 12 years old, and I had a great life in Australia. One day, I was at a park, and there was a huge storm water drain beside it, one of the ones shaped like a flat-bottomed V. I was on the swings, which were facing the drain, and I suddenly got a weird feeling of being watched. I walked to the edge, and halfway down the slope was a man. He had blood on his side, and he looked genuinely hurt, so I made my way down the concrete slope. He was in his 50s, bald. When I was near him, I called out, "Are you all right?" He didn't reply. I thought he must be in such pain that he couldn't speak. I got out my phone to call 000, but all of a sudden something flashed, and he moved towards me with astonishing speed. He was holding a knife. I screamed and tried to run, but I slipped and fell, landing in the trickle of water at the bottom. He advanced on me, and he raised the knife. The next moment was the most painful of my life. He brought the knife down on my bottom left stomach, around the area opposite to my kidney. I could almost feel death on my shoulders. He was screaming and laughing. The strange thing was that he didn't sound crazy, he just sounded like I had told the funniest joke in the world. His wholesome laughing and blinding pain made me black out. I don't know how, but I lived. I think the number must have dialed, and the police must have heard screaming, but I don't know. Somehow I survived. I can never know how, but I can be grateful. Anyway, I woke up in the hospital, and the police interviewed me. I told them about the man, and they started a search. They eventually found him, and he got 10 years in prison. I have moved away now, and I really hope I never see him again.
My name is Martin, and I have a 10-year-old son whose name is Lewis. Recently, my son asked me to buy and install a game for his PC named Among Us. He's been playing it every day since. I don't really play video games, but I asked him how he was enjoying it, and if he was playing with his friends or not. He told me yeah, he plays with his friend Colin. One night, I had made Lewis dinner, and told him to come down and eat. He said he was in the middle of the game on Among Us. He then asked me to play as he went to eat. I laughed, but I agreed. I wanted to see what this game was my son was playing so much anyway. I sat down and put the headset on, and did my best to start playing. A discussion popped up and I saw Colin's name. When he spoke, his voice wasn't what I was expecting. It was a man's voice. He kind of sounded like he was in his mid-30s at least. I quit the game and went to ask Lewis some questions about his friend Colin. I thought maybe it was his dad playing at the time. I asked Lewis what class his friend Colin was in, and what he looked like. Lewis told me he didn't know. I said, "How don't you know? He's your friend from school, isn't he?" Lewis shook his head no, and he said he's not my friend from school. He's my friend from Among Us. Lewis said he played with Colin, and Colin added him and plays with him every time he's online. I'm not really any good with video games or computers, so I asked Lewis to block Colin and never play with him again. I didn't feel comfortable with an older man playing with my 10-year-old son so much. Later that night, before Lewis went to bed, I asked him if he had done what I asked him to do, and blocked Colin on his game. He said yeah. He also said when he said it on the mic that he couldn't play with Colin anymore. Colin got very angry and started shouting at him. I'm glad I found out when I did. But there was something wrong with this Colin. I thought that would be the end of it until the other day when I picked Lewis up from school. I saw he had a drawing with him. I couldn't see what it was exactly because I was driving, but I asked Lewis if he drew this in art class. He told me no. He found it in his bag during the lunch break. When we got home, I had a better look at the drawing. It was a drawing of two characters from Among Us. They were both holding hands. Above one of the characters was the name Lewis, and above the other character was the name Colin. It disturbs me that whoever this Colin is, he knows where my son's school is, and somehow had access to Lewis's bag. I've told both the police and the school about this, and I haven't heard anything or had another incident like this since. Just be careful. We all know about the game called Among Us, but not everyone knew about it back in 2018. I downloaded the app back when it first came out, along with a few of my friends and some of their friends. We play a lot of games where it was just us and no one else. There was my friend Gianna, who would always invite this guy named Tyler, but I didn't know him and the rest of us didn't know him either. It went maybe a month of playing every day to every other day, but I couldn't stand that guy Tyler. He would always try to turn everyone against each other and would get mad that I call him out. So one day, I told everyone that I won't play with them again if Tyler continues to play. So everyone, including Gianna, chose to not play with Tyler anymore. That decision was made while we were in the middle of a game, and Tyler was voted out. Before he left, he said he'd see me around. We all laughed sarcastically and said that he's mad and he's a tough guy. The next day, I was just getting home from school like I usually do and ate some food. My older brother had a basketball game because he played for the varsity team in our high school. So my family left me because I just wanted to stay home. As I were laying down in bed in my room, which is on the first floor near the back of the house, I heard my back fence move. I looked out of my window and I saw that the light came on because it was dark by this time. I didn't see anything or anyone, so I continued watching TV and texting. I then began to doze off. The knock on my window immediately woke me up completely. I looked out the window, and standing there was some guy in a black Nike hoodie, black sweatpants with a pipe in his hand. The guy smiled at me and said, "Hey, I'm Tyler. What's up now?" He hit my window with the pipe, and it cracked the window, then ran to my back door. I called my parents and started to scream and yell. They were actually pulling up to the house from the game, getting ready to walk in. I ran out of the front door, and I'm guessing that guy ran away hopping my back fence. I called Gianna and asked her how he knew where I lived. She told me that he was actually her boyfriend from another school, and threatened her if she wouldn't give him my address. I've never been so afraid in my life. And I also never knew anyone could get that mad over video games. My name is Paul. I play a lot of video games with my group of friends. Recently, we've been playing Among Us most nights. Every time my friends and I play video games together, we always used our mics, and a lot of times, we just trolled other players. We were playing Among Us and had a lot of discussions about who the killers could be. Me and my two friends, whose names were Harry and Wayne, thought it was the guy named Sean, and so did the rest of the lobby. We eventually voted him to be ejected. During the discussions, Sean was getting more and more aggressive, insisting it wasn't him who was the killer. And me and my two friends actually found it quite funny. After the game, Harry had received a message from a guy named Sean saying he wasn't the killer, and we shouldn't have ejected him, and so on. Wayne thought it would be funny to invite Sean into our lobby to troll him the whole game, and tell the rest of the players in the discussion that we think Sean's the killer. So that's what we did. We played the 2 games with the Sean guy, each time trolling him and saying that he was the killer and getting him ejected. Sean eventually left our lobby, and we didn't play with him again that night. I'm a light sleeper and wake up to the slightest of sounds. I woke up around 2 a.m. by the sound of a car. I looked out my window and I saw a car parked just outside my house. The car was still running, but no one got out, no one got in the car. I looked around and saw my street to be empty. Just before trying to go back to sleep, my computer started up. I went over to my computer and there was a blue screen. In the middle of the blue screen was an icon that said, "Open for discussion." I clicked on it and it revealed a very gory photo of a man who was cut in half, and underneath was written, "You have been ejected." I tried to move the mouse and turn off my computer, but it didn't work. The only thing to do was to look at the gruesome photo. My computer did turn off eventually, and as soon as it did, that car that was outside my house slowly drove off. The next day I woke up and saw a text from my friends Harry and Wayne, and they both said they had similar experiences, that they received weird pictures on the computer and phones, pictures of people cut in half. I asked them both if they think it was something to do with that guy we were trolling. They both didn't know what to think. I thought that Sean guy somehow found out where we lived and hacked our devices. What scares me is how real the photos were, and how he knew where me and my friends lived and was able to hack our devices so easily. My name is Rick, and for the past week and a half, every evening, my friends and I have been playing Among Us. 3 nights ago, I texted my 2 friends who usually play with me if they have time to play. One of them said they were too busy, and the other one, whose name is Rick, didn't reply, so I assumed he was busy. I was going to play anyway, but I saw that Eric was on the game and invited me to play. I figured he saw me on the game, invited me, and couldn't be bothered to reply. So Eric and I played that evening on Among Us. What was unusual was Eric was very quiet when we were having discussions. He was on the mic, but I could barely hear what he was saying. I actually texted him a few times telling him that he needs to turn his mic up, but he never replied. After playing for a few hours, I had enough and I decided to call it a night. I spoke on the mic to Eric and I said I was going offline, but he didn't reply again. A few hours later, I got a text from Eric saying, "Sorry, I didn't reply. I was out and forgot my phone at home." I was confused, thinking, how was I just playing with him if he wasn't at home? Before I could reply, he sent another text saying, "What do you mean, turn my mic up?" I texted him back saying, "How did you play Among Us with me if you weren't at home?" He said, "I haven't played Among Us since yesterday, but it looks like someone has been in my room and also had gone through all my things. Eric lives alone." I replied saying that it was definitely his account on the game and I was playing with him, and I even heard his mic being used. Eric replied saying that he thinks someone had broken into his house, and also his spare key was missing from his garden and a Snickers bar from his kitchen table. It creeps me out to know that whoever snuck into Eric's house and somehow knew where his spare key was played Among Us with me, and I had no idea who it was.